At any given moment, there are thousands of commercial flights in the air over the United States alone. Each one is moving at around 500 miles per hour, sharing airspace with dozens of other aircraft, some separated by as little as 3 miles horizontally in radar-controlled airspace and 1,000 feet vertically. Nobody is bumping into each other. Nobody is guessing. And the people responsible for keeping all of that organized are not using some futuristic artificial intelligence. They are using a system built on layered protocols, radar geometry, and decades of hard-won procedure. The question worth asking is exactly how that system actually works, because the answer is more mechanical and more human than most people expect. The instinct most people have is that air traffic control is basically a giant GPS board. A controller watches a screen, sees where all the planes are, and tells them where to go. That picture is not wrong, but it is about 10 layers too shallow. The real system is not one thing. It is a chain of separate facilities, each responsible for a specific slice of airspace, handing aircraft to the next link as they move through their journey. Miss any handoff, lose any link in that chain, and the whole safety margin starts to compress. The chain starts before the aircraft even leaves the gate. A flight plan is filed electronically and processed by the Air Traffic Control System Command Center, which looks at traffic flow across the entire national airspace and decides, sometimes hours in advance, whether a departure needs to be delayed to prevent a bottleneck hundreds or even thousands of miles away. This is called ground delay management, and it's the reason your flight sometimes sits at the gate for 40 minutes, even when the sky outside looks clear. The congestion it's avoiding is invisible to you because it has not happened yet. Once the aircraft pushes back, it enters the domain of ground control, then clearance delivery, then the local tower, each one a separate controller with a narrow, well-defined job. The tower controller handles the visible airspace around the airport, typically a few miles in radius and extending a few thousand feet up. They are the ones issuing takeoff clearances, managing runway sequences, and watching for conflicts in real time. Increase the traffic volume beyond a certain threshold, and the controller's cognitive load climbs steeply, which is why major hubs like Chicago O'Hare have separate controllers dedicated just to specific runways during peak hours. But here is what most people do not realize. Once an aircraft climbs out of the tower's airspace, it does not go directly to the high-altitude radar centers most people imagine. It passes through a TRACON first. TRACON, Terminal Radar, Approach Control, manages a bubble of airspace extending tens of miles around an airport and up into the mid-teens of thousands of feet of altitude. The TRACON is where the real geometric puzzle solving happens. Controllers here are sequencing arrivals, merging traffic from multiple directions onto a single final approach path, and doing it with aircraft arriving at different speeds and from different altitudes. Think of it like merging 4 lanes of highway traffic onto 1 lane, except the cars are doing 250 knots, and the merge point is a single runway threshold. This is where it gets interesting, because the tools controllers use are not magic. The primary tool is radar, specifically Secondary Surveillance Radar, SSR. Unlike primary radar, which simply bounces a signal off an aircraft's metal skin, SSR interrogates a transponder aboard the aircraft. The transponder replies with a 4-digit squawk code, and, on most modern aircraft, with altitude data. That is how the controller's screen shows not just a blip, but a labeled data tag with call sign, altitude, and ground speed. Lose the transponder signal, and the aircraft becomes much harder to track. That is exactly why entering certain airspace without a functioning transponder is prohibited. Above 18,000 feet in the United States, aircraft enter Class A airspace and are handed off to an Air Route Traffic Control Center, ARTCC. There are 22 of these centers covering the continental United States, each one responsible for an enormous block of high-altitude airspace. At cruise altitude, the separation standards are 1,000 feet vertically between aircraft flying at different altitudes on the same route, and 3 nautical miles horizontally within radar coverage. Those numbers are not arbitrary. They are derived from radar accuracy limits, aircraft performance envelopes, and the reaction time needed for a controller to issue a conflict resolution instruction and have the pilot execute it. Shrink the separation, and you are spending a safety margin that exists for a reason. Here's the trade-off nobody tells you about. The more precise your surveillance technology, the tighter the separation you can safely authorize, and the more aircraft you can fit into a given block of airspace. This is exactly why the FAA has been pushing the transition to Automatic Dependent Surveillance Broadcast, ADS-B. Instead of waiting for a radar sweep, which typically updates every several seconds, depending on the installation, ADS-B equipped aircraft broadcast their position derived from GPS roughly once per second. More frequent updates mean tighter position confidence, which means the safety geometry can be drawn more tightly without actually reducing the margin. The edge case that stress tests all of this is oceanic airspace, where ground-based radar does not exist at all. Over the North Atlantic, aircraft are separated by standardized procedural distances and kept apart using position reports made at regular intervals, often on the order of tens of minutes. Controllers at Shanwick and Gander Oceanic Centers manage hundreds of aircraft along organized track systems that shift daily based on the jet stream. There is no radar confirmation. The system runs entirely on procedural separation, meaning the math has to be right before the aircraft departs, because there is no real-time correction available if it is not. It works, but it is a reminder that the radar coverage most people assume is everywhere is actually a relatively recent and geographically limited luxury. What the whole system adds up to is this. Air traffic control works because it is redundant by design, segmented by altitude and phase of flight, and built around the assumption that any single tool or any single controller can fail. The radar can lose a return. The radio can break. The controller can make a mistake. The system is layered specifically so that no single failure produces a catastrophe. Separation standards exist not because aircraft are flying that close together on purpose, but because that is the minimum distance at which a human controller, working with real hardware and real communication delays, can still reliably intervene. The next time your flight is stacked in a holding pattern 20 miles from the runway, you are not watching inefficiency. You are watching a system that was designed to absorb unpredictability, without ever letting 2 aircraft occupy the same piece of sky at the same time, and doing it thousands of times a day, every day, without most passengers ever noticing it is happening at all.